Hi. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about parts, and the parts work that I've been using is IFS as well as brain spotting. And they can be beautifully combined. Sometimes I'm using only brain spotting, other times I might be only doing parts work, but often I'm combining them. And there's a real benefit in the brain spotting world to educating clients about parts because it is a wonderful way to step away from shame. Understanding that this isn't you necessarily reacting, it's a part of you that's having an issue with what's going on. It's a part of you that got created a long, long time ago. So I primarily use brain spotting because pretty naturally the exiles are coming forward. That is the young wounded parts. And when people sit with that, they are deriving information from their deep brain. And that's the thing about brain spotting is language brings people back to their neocortex. So when they can sit in silence and follow what's happening in the brain in a very stream of conscious way, it's a portal to deeper understanding. So that's why for me brain spotting comes first, because a lot of times these things are getting resolved in an individual's deep brain without there having to be any questioning or interventions or anything being pointed out. It's different than what we're taught in counseling school. If we're doing CBT or another form that had like that's talk therapy. The primary modality is talk therapy in some way. Um, with brain spotting, we're going to a deeper place within the brain that can create some long-term results. And that's what we're really hoping for, especially when it comes to trauma, CPTSD, and attachment wounding, which is my specialty. So if the exiles, the wounded parts are coming forward, we don't have to do a whole lot in brain spotting because people are processing and they might be at a starting out at a 9 out of 10, and then it suddenly drops to about a 3 out of 10, and then it comes up to a 5 out of 10. And I'm looking over here because I've got my brain spot. If you need to know more about brain spotting itself, you want to go to brainspotting.com and watch some of the videos. But essentially, we're combining a spot that we find with the client as well as bilateral music that's brain spotting bilateral because it goes back and forth at different rates. And also they're checking in with their body, and we're attuning and sitting pretty close to the client, attuning with them. So these are the components of brain spotting. But at any rate, a client might be going between these high activation points and then lower, on the SUD scale, and then going back up a little bit. And this is how the brain works it out of itself so that as it adapts to a new way of being, it can sustain it. Because the brain resists sometimes a new way of being, and so then they're going to get activated again, and then the brain's going to try out this calmer way of being, and eventually will allow the trauma to release from the body. So if it becomes too overwhelming, a wound becomes too overwhelming for a client, they'll let us know. And we have lots of ways of working. We don't call them protocols because we're not applying the same thing to every client. We are going to adapt what we're doing to what's happening with the client. And a lot of clients can sustain activation really well and work it out of their body. Some people get really overwhelmed, so then we slow down and we resource. But we don't intervene because it's a very natural process. Now, if a manager comes up, that's another story. So in the IFS world, a manager is a part that was intending to protect a wounded child part, a wounded exile. And the manager can be a distractor or it can be a shamer. And so if someone gets stuck in a manager, then I may ask some questions gently, like, hey, would it be possible for me to chat with this part? And the client has always said, haven't had a client say no. I have had a client say, I've checked in with that part and it doesn't really want to speak with you. And I'm totally fine with that. We need permission from these manager parts to move forward. So I'll say, okay, would it be okay for that part to witness our process? And usually that part agrees to that, even if it doesn't want to speak with me. But if people can embody that manager part and allow some direct access to it, I might say, what prevents you from stepping aside? What are you afraid will happen if you step aside? And they usually say, oh, then that person won't know what to do. They'll be hurt. Um, they can't trust people to carry their secrets for them. They have lots to say. I'll gotta say, the managers do. But as we acknowledge them and as we tune into them and use curiosity to find out what's going on for that manager part, by and large, it'll move aside and witness us as we work with the wounded part. And then I'm able to go back into the brain spotting. Because when it's a wounded part, it can be pre-verbal. It's usually a very young part. So the silence is golden. In brain spotting, silence is golden. We try not to talk. We try not to intervene. So at any rate, when it comes to firefighters, the addictions, the soothers, Roby Abeles has she's trademarked a crocodile and pearls frame setup that's wonderful in the brain spotting world to work with addictions. So we do have ways, again, we don't call them protocols, we call them frame setups, because we don't use it with everybody and we don't use each one of them with every single person. So, but when it comes to those soothers, it really helps clients to know that it's a part that's trying to soothe them. It's not a part that's trying to, make their suffering worse. Often it does make their suffering worse, because when they go and scroll for hours, or when they drink too much or eat too much, creates a shame response. So we do want to access and work with those firefighters as well, but we want to have an understanding that both the managers and the firefighters are coming in to protect these younger parts. I hope that helps you understand how we integrate the two. If you have questions, you can feel free to reach out to me at jenniferdelaney.com is my website. And subscribe if you'd like more videos about well-being and brain spotting. Take good care.